Right now, while you're watching this video, your brain is doing something you're not even aware of. It's generating a new thought, then another, then another. By the time this video ends, your mind will have produced somewhere around 70 to 80 brand new thoughts, most of which you won't remember by tomorrow. You've probably heard the claim that we have 60,000 thoughts a day. It's been repeated in articles, courses, even therapy offices, usually credited to something called a National Science Foundation study. Here's the problem. That study doesn't exist. Researchers have traced the number back, and it doesn't come from a neuroscience lab at all. It comes from a marketing blog post written by a business coach for a plumbing and HVAC company. Somehow, that number got copy-pasted into thousands of self-help articles for over a decade, until everyone just accepted it as fact. So what's the real number? In 2020, researchers at Queen's University in Canada finally measured it properly, using fMRI brain scans on real people, not guesswork. They found a way to detect the exact moment one thought ends and the next one begins. They even gave each one a name, a thought worm. The real number isn't 60,000, it's about 6,200 thoughts a day. That's still roughly one new thought every 9 seconds you're awake. Your mind is never actually silent. It's more like a radio that never gets switched off, just quieter or louder depending on the moment. And here's the part that should actually concern you. A Harvard study that tracked over 2,000 people in real time, pinging them randomly throughout the day to ask, "What are you thinking about right now?" found that people's minds wander almost half the time. Not during boring tasks, almost all tasks. Even during activities you'd assume demand full attention, minds still drifted away roughly 10% of the time. And the same researchers found something even stranger. People were measurably less happy while mind wandering, even when the task they were avoiding was unpleasant. Doing something boring with full attention made people happier than doing something enjoyable with a wandering mind. Their paper had a simple title that says it all. A wandering mind is an unhappy mind. So the real question isn't, how do I stop thinking? That's not realistic, and honestly, it's not even the goal. The real question is, why does the mind refuse to stay still? And is there anything that actually works to quiet it down? To answer that, we need to look at two very different sources that, thousands of years apart, arrived at the exact same conclusion. Let's start with the science. Inside your brain, there's a network of regions that switches on almost every time you're not laser focused on a task. Scientists call it the default mode network. Think of it like an app running in the background on your phone. You're not using it, you didn't even open it, but it's still running, still burning battery, still quietly active the entire time. That's what the default mode network does to your attention. The moment you stop focusing, waiting in line, walking to your car, lying in bed, this network switches back on and your mind starts wandering on its own. Not because something is wrong with you, because that's simply the brain's default setting. It's the reason the network has that name. For a long time, scientists assumed this wandering mind was purely bad news, but more recent research has pushed back on that a little. The default mode network isn't only responsible for anxious spirals and replaying awkward conversations from years ago, it's also connected to creativity, future planning, and the kind of big picture thinking that solves problems you weren't consciously working on. So mind wandering itself isn't the enemy. The problem is unaware wandering. When your mind takes you somewhere and you don't even notice it happened, don't choose it, and can't guide it back. Here's where it gets interesting. Long before brain scanners existed, this exact problem was already being described, almost word for word, in texts that are thousands of years old. One of the most famous examples comes from an ancient Indian scripture called the Bhagavad Gita, where a warrior admits to his teacher that his mind feels impossible to control. Restless, flickering, harder to hold still than the wind itself. His teacher doesn't disagree. He agrees the mind is genuinely difficult to master, but he doesn't say it's impossible either. And this wasn't an isolated idea. Across very different cultures and centuries, from ancient India to ancient Greece to early Buddhist teachings in Asia, one belief shows up again and again, that the external world you experience is filtered entirely through the state of your own mind. Change a troubled mental state, and the way you experience everything around you changes with it, even before the circumstances themselves change. One old text puts it with an image that's hard to forget. Imagine wearing tinted glasses. Everything you look at appears colored, not because the world actually changed color, but because of what you're seeing it through. Complaining about the color of the world does nothing. The only real fix is taking the glasses off. That's the same idea neuroscience is circling back to now, just with different language. The lens you're seeing through, your mental state, shapes the world you experience far more than the world itself does. Here's something else most people don't realize about their own thoughts. They're not evenly distributed. Negative ones tend to stick harder than positive ones, and that's not a personal failing. It's built into the wiring. There's a small part of your brain called the amygdala, and its job is to flag anything that looks like a threat. When it detects something negative, it tags that thought as urgent, which means it gets processed faster and stored more permanently than a neutral or positive thought of equal size. This is called the negativity bias, and it's not new. It's old software, built for a world of predators and scarcity, still running today, just misfiring. You're not anxious because you're broken. You're anxious because a survival system built for physical danger is now being triggered by emails and notifications. So if negative thoughts are naturally stickier, is there any proof the brain can actually be retrained to work differently? There is. And one study makes the case better than almost any other. Neuroscientist Richard Davidson at the University of Wisconsin wired up a Buddhist monk named Matteo Ricard with 256 sensors and asked him to meditate on compassion. What they measured was his gamma wave activity, a type of brainwave linked to attention, learning, and awareness. His results were the highest ever recorded in the study at that point, not slightly higher, off the charts compared to everyone else tested. His brain also showed a pattern strongly linked to positive emotion and lower reactivity to negativity. Ricard himself has compared this kind of mental training to something much simpler, lifting weights. Nobody expects a bicep to grow after one gym session.
Nothing changed?
But repeated, consistent reps over time physically change the muscle. His argument is that the brain works the same way. Attention and calm aren't fixed traits you either have or don't. They're trainable. The same way strength is. So here's what actually works based on both sides of this story. First, stop aiming for silence. Neither the neuroscience nor the ancient traditions claim you're supposed to have zero thoughts. That expectation is exactly why most people quit meditation early. They assume a wandering mind means they're failing. It doesn't. The goal was never emptiness. It's noticing when you've drifted and gently coming back, over and over. That returning is the training. Second, change what you're feeding your mind before you try to force it quiet. Remember the tinted glasses. Your mind reflects whatever it's constantly exposed to. If your day is filled with doom scrolling, outrage, and chaotic noise, that's a lens your thoughts will default to. Even something as simple as changing what you consume first thing in the morning shifts what your mind reaches for the rest of the day. Third, give your attention short, repeated reps, not one long session. Just like Ricard's brain didn't change overnight, yours won't either. A few focused minutes a day, actually noticing your breath, actually noticing your surroundings, actually staying with one task without letting your mind wander off, is a rep. Do it enough times, and the same way a muscle adapts to lifting, your attention starts adapting too. None of this means your mind will go quiet. It won't. It's not supposed to. A mind that thinks 6,200 times a day is doing exactly what a healthy brain is built to do. The goal was never to stop the noise completely. It's learning which lens you're seeing through, and finally, having a hand on it. Most people go their whole lives never questioning the lens they're seeing through. If you'd rather understand it than ignore it, subscribe. That's exactly what this channel is for.